So, hi everyone. I'm so sorry that I was so excited to do the Facebook Live side by side with Ashley, and we have a little technical difficulties. So, we will figure it out for the next time. But here I am. I actually have Ashley on the line, and we're here should you have any questions. But I know this is weird, but I have Ashley like sort of as a caller in. So, Ashley, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself. Can you speak live?
Yeah, sure. I don't know if they can hear me.
I don't know if they can hear you either.
I hope they can hear me. It'll
Me
be a little
too.
awkward if they can.
I
Great.
know, I
Fine,
know.
but
I wonder if I should stick this into, I think I'm going to try this. Put this phone. Let's see.
wait, I just turned on the sound. I can hear me.
You
On
can?
like yeah, I can hear it.
Okay, I'm putting you close to my
So-
speaker.
So we'll see if this will work. We hacked the system. So I'm Ashley, and I'm Erica's administrative assistant, social media extraordinaire, I guess. I don't know.
Wait, I have to just tell you, wait, so you know, she's my younger helper. She helps me. I bring wisdom, she brings youth. We balance one another. Thank God for her.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I've been working with Erica since January, actually. It's been a while now.
It has been a while.
And, I pop into the Facebook group every day with resources, so I'm sure you've seen my name pop up a couple of times. I'm also the policeman, so, I go in, and if there's anything triggering, I ask people to edit things, and I also offer some advice, because I've also kind of been through the whole recovery, intuitive eating journey. So I'm not, a certified nutritionist or anything like that, but I am going to school for social work right now, and I sort of just bring my personal experience to the table and kind of just let people know what I've found helpful. And I also work with some other people in this field, so that, along with Erica, I've learned a lot about what works and what doesn't. So yeah, did you want me to answer anything specific, Erica, about my experience?
Yeah, I love that. Well, I don't love that I'm sorry that you've gone through the experience of having disordered eating, but you've come out on the other side and really become acutely aware of diet culture and how it influences recovery and actually creates disordered eating. And so you're sort of a walking, talking, ball of experience with this personally.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think it's funny that you're like, oh, it's not a good thing that you've experienced this, and you and I have talked about this before.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that when you get to a certain point in recovery, you sort of start to recognize that no, of course, that experience wasn't a positive one, but that experience is what has shaped you into who you are. It's sort of like the whole butterfly effect thing. If I never experienced something horrible, would I, believe the things that I believe and think the way that I think? And, it's sort of like, in a way, having gratitude for the disorder, which is a little weird and sounds kind of backwards, but I think a lot of people do come to that eventually.
I think so too. I've heard that from many of my clients, that the experience has shaped them into the person they are today. So
right. I mean, I wouldn't be doing the work that I'm doing if I hadn't gone through all of that. And I think that I think that everyone has their own personal awakening in terms of feminism, and for me, my awakening it was about my body, and realizing that the reason why I hated my body or thought I was supposed to look a certain way or felt like a failure, all these things, it wasn't my fault. It was that I had been, brainwashed, so to speak, to believe these things. And, part of that is patriarchy. And, obviously eating issues and body issues affect all genders, but, it acutely affects women more so because we've, been marginalized so much throughout history, and it's another way to make us literally and figuratively smaller. So that was a big part of my recovery, understanding the systemic influences and how they kind of factor in, and sort of being able to separate it from myself, because I think, yes, there's of course a personal element. Like when I was younger, before I really understood that much about bodies, I used food to soothe. I lived in a very difficult household, and that was just how I coped. You know, I wasn't doing it because of diet culture, but, you know, then society steps in, right? And I started to gain weight, and I learned that that wasn't okay, you know, and that's when things really become problematic.
Well, thank you for that. I have to say that I do find among many of the people that I work with that this notion that they need to be smaller is the stumbling block in recovery. You know, this overarching theme that we don't count, that we don't matter, that we should disappear, that we don't have a voice, really, you know, is extrapolated into our bodies. And so much of this work with not just, you know, eating disorder recovery, but also recovery from, I'll just say, disordered thinking about food and our bodies and body image, you know, it continues to be problematic. And it's why that I do this work and you do this work. And becoming an intuitive eater is, you know, a lot of people say, what the heck is intuitive eating? It's sort of this catch-all term. But I like to think about it as literally coming to a place of really combining listening to your body with the concrete thoughts in your head, sort of merging them, really acknowledging what your body feels, what feels good to you, recognizing that. What would you say? Because I really, I think I'm just lost track of what I was saying, actually.
Yeah, no, so what is intuitive eating? How do I stop intuitive eating? I mean, I think intuitive eating, I mean, you know, it's sort of self-explanatory in the sense that, like, it's listening to your intuition about what you want to eat, but I think it's also, you know, we're born as intuitive eaters. If you look at a kid, you know, a young kid who hasn't, you know, been socialized yet to think that certain foods are good, certain foods are bad, that kind of thing, you can kind of see how they behave around food. You know, they leave stuff on their plate. They, you know, eat a bunch of vegetables and then eat a bunch of candy and go back and forth. You know, they don't tend to have very balanced meals, but throughout the week, everything ends up kind of evening out.
Throughout the week,
you know,
throughout the month.
Like sorry?
No, throughout the week, throughout the month.
Right, throughout the month, whatever. But yeah, you know, they move and then they stop and then they move and then they stop and, you know, they get water when they need it. And they're very in touch with, like, their inner signals, even, like, going to the bathroom, you know? So it's really, you know, I mean, to me, intuitive eating is even more about intuitive living. I think that that's something that people really start to get in touch with when they, not quite when they start out, but when they start digging, you know, and seeing where the blocks are, and seeing where their stumbling blocks are. You know, they break that down. It starts to become very clear that it's not just about the food; it's also about, you know, just how they interact with themselves. Do they listen to themselves? I mean, going back to the feminist piece, you know, like, women and femmes are generally told not to listen to themselves, not to trust themselves. They're being dramatic. They're making too big a deal out of things. You know, that happens a lot. And, you know, to that end, in terms of diet culture speak, I remember, you know, my mother saying things like, well, hunger's not an emergency. You know, you can wait.
Yes.
You know, and so there's this insistence that your needs aren't as important as everybody else's. And there's this encouragement through diet culture to ignore them and to push them down and to override them.
Yes.
You know, so intuitive eating is really about doing the exact opposite of that. It's about trusting your body. I really like the term body trust. I think that's a really good catch-all.
Yes.
And, you know, and I think that, you know, at a certain point, you do start to make those connections. You know, you connect the dots between, okay, you know, I do get to trust my body. I do get to listen to my body, you know, and then that sort of permeates throughout. And it's okay, well, you know, I do get to trust my intuition and say, I don't like the situation I'm in, and I'm going to remove myself and not apologize, you know?
You know what I have to say? I'm going to just, for one moment, I'm having the realization that we are upon a holiday that many people, or perhaps many people in the group, will be celebrating, which are the high holidays for people who are of the Jewish faith. There's going to be lots of gatherings. There's going to be feasting. There's going to be fasting. So you were just kind of making me think about this whole notion of not listening, not trusting our bodies,
Right.
and sort of thinking about what's that going to be like when you're surrounded by all this food, when you're surrounded by the food, and then when you're fasting, which is, you know, Yom Kippur, which is the holiest day of the year, next weekend, where people do fast. And what does that mean? What does that mean? So I'll just make a couple of comments about that, and then I'd love you to sort of share. I'd like to make a couple of comments just in terms of being an intuitive eater and how to manage, and I'll just talk about the Jewish holidays, but certainly this can apply to any other large gathering celebration where you'll be with your family, because sometimes families can be triggering. If you're working on intuitive eating and you're working on mantling diet culture. So what happens? You go to a dinner and there's all this food. How do you stop yourself? Ashley, how do you stop yourself?
Well, you don't. That's the point.
A traditional dietitian would tell you to stop yourself.
Yeah, a typical dietitian would. You know, they'd give you all these sort of, tips. You know, and I won't even go into those tips. I'm sure we all know them.
We know them.
But the point is that it's just a way to ignore what you want. You know, I mean, of course, Yom Kippur and, something like Ramadan, which was this past spring, those are holidays that you're supposed to fast to show your, what's the word I'm looking for? Not holiness, but
it is a way, certainly, of getting closer to God, of actually not really thinking about your needs. That really is what those days are about. And it's Ramadan is a full month, Yom Kippur is a day, but they're both days, both one day in a month, where you actually don't really pay attention to your needs. You really think about the needs of others. It's about paying penance and thinking about the things that you've done over the year and really sort of wanting to start over and making amends. But I'm going to make the point that if someone is in recovery from disordered eating, there's nothing wrong with finding a different way of celebrating the holiday rather than fasting. I want to make this point because there's so many other ways to honor God or whoever it is that you believe in. There are doing good deeds. There are helping other people. There's donating money. There's just so many other ways of showing what your beliefs are rather than not listening to your needs, which is exactly what someone in recovery needs to do, is really to pay attention to their needs. So I know I sort of segued into that, but it is I'm realizing that the holidays are upon us if someone is of this faith.
Right, and I think that's something my rabbi always told me, and I don't know the language, in the Bible exactly, in the Torah exactly, but I know that there is sort of like a stipulation that if there are health concerns, those override any kind of call to fast.
Absolutely.
So someone who's diabetic, for example, they cannot fast. That's not feasible for them, and so they are not. Them not fasting says nothing about their worship to God. And similarly, if you're in recovery, fasting is not something that's good for your health, your mental or physical health.
That's totally correct.
And so, that does override, and doesn't say anything about your ability to, worship. I don't talk about religion enough to have the proper vocabulary, but
it's okay. We're just getting the concept out there that if you're someone who is going to be participating in any kind of organized religion, and the Jewish holidays are coming upon us, if you're commanded to fast, but it's not good for your health, the health of the person and the baby, actually, if you're pregnant, is the most important thing. So that's really all that we're saying.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Pregnancy as well. Yeah. But yeah. So I think that the holidays are upon us, and that's the thing to think about too. I feel like I was answering another question before we started talking about the holidays.
We start to talk, we go off on topics. That's why I'm looking forward to being. I know. I'm looking forward to being able to see you next time side to side, because we just we're funny.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely easier when I can, like, see your face in real time. Um, but in any case, yeah, I mean, I was talking about...
I see Lori is giving us a thumbs up.
I was talking about sort of like body trust and putting yourself, understanding that, you know, listening to your needs about food can translate to listening to your needs in general. And I was actually almost sort of like commenting on consent and being able to trust your intuition and you know, walk away from something when it feels not okay and not have to apologize for it. You know, I think that's something that is really important and something that intuitive eating can teach you. You know, I feel like intuitive eating can sort of be a gateway to embodiment and relearning how to be with yourself and accept whatever it is you're feeling.
Can I just say,
sure
I'm going to repeat what you just said because it's so important, which is about consent. And it's not just, it's consent in any fashion. It's really being able to recognize what your needs are and being able to say yes or say no. And I think that is so hard for so many women to say no. And it's fascinating. I even see it in myself, taking on more obligations than I would be happy to. And saying no is so powerful in terms of taking care of yourself. Yeah, say yes to the things that make you feel good. Just like eating foods and doing physical activity that makes you feel good, saying no to obligations that are not good for you, or saying no to really people, places, or things that are not good for you is very, very powerful. And it all goes hand in hand with intuitive eating. It's intuitive living. I totally agree.
Well, I think the other thing we're talking about is boundaries too.
Boundaries, yes.
You know, being able to say no is an example of creating a boundary, you know, and making it clear what you are and aren't okay with.
Absolutely.
And, you know, bringing it back to, you know, the topic at hand, you know, creating boundaries around yourself in terms of what kind of food talkers you are and are not okay with. Especially because family, like you're talking about how family can be really triggering. And part of that problem is because, you know, or in essence, part of the issue is because we don't have those boundaries with our families a lot of the time. We don't feel able to say something like, hi, like, it's great that you want to talk about this, but I can't be in this conversation. So you either need to stop or you need to have it elsewhere. You know, and that can be really uncomfortable and difficult, and you can get a lot of pushback, especially because these kinds of conversations are so commonplace. You know, like no one thinks there's anything wrong with them because they're happening around us every second, you know.
You know, this is actually where I was going when I was starting to talk about the Jewish holidays coming up, and which is that you will have, most likely, you know, in a family setting, there will be diet talk. There will be people saying things about, did you lose weight? Did you gain weight? Oh, here my latest diet. And these things are very challenging, you know, not just in families, but being anywhere where there's constant diet talk. And it's challenging to figure out how to put your boundary out there, how to say, I'd really rather not talk about your diet right now. It's, you know, it's not helpful to me, and walk away. So have you had that experience at all, Ashley? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, my intuitive eating process is very much wrapped up in my own just therapeutic process. And a huge part of that was learning about boundaries and learning how to create them, how to respect them, how to even sense them. I grew up in a very boundaryless household, and so I didn't even know what a boundary was, and I didn't know I was allowed to say no, you know. So, you know, as I've gotten older and I've gotten much more confident in knowing what is and isn't okay for me, I've gotten much better at saying it, you know, and not really caring if I get pushback. You know, I'm very much about self-preservation over making other people happy. And I think that that's a little more rare, especially among femme folk. We tend to be people pleasers. I've never been a people pleaser. I kind of relish making people angry.
I was a people pleaser. I still am. We all have our own crosses. We all have our own crosses to bear.
For sure. I mean, I think that I just grew up in such a way that I was so beholden and taking care of others. And that's still a huge huge part of me. Like I said, I'm going to school for social work. I plan on taking care of others in my professional life, but, you know, it's not my job to take care of certain people. And I think there's still a little bit of like, fuck you embedded in there, you know? Like, I just, you know, I'm not gonna subject myself to that, and I'm not gonna feel badly about it either. And so I definitely have had to get good at not even, you know, I think setting boundaries is always about protecting yourself, and I think they're so important. But personally, I don't think I need the protection so much as I need to sort of speak my truth. So, you know, I don't, at this point in my recovery, tend to get triggered, you know, when other people say things. But, you know, I know that it has no bearing on me and my journey, and so it's fine.
Oh, I was going to stop and say hi, Merritt. Love to you, too. Thank you.
Yeah, I know that that's not the case for most people. But I think that for me, it's more important to sort of be able to push back against sort of popularly held beliefs about food and diet and body. That's what I tend to do when those things come up. I don't shut the conversation down for my own protection, because that's not the space I'm at. But I do challenge it, and I do, if it's appropriate. I mean, if I'm talking to somebody who I know is not going to listen to a thing I say, then it's not appropriate. It's not a good use of my time, and I might as well just walk away. But, you know, I find that when you're able to speak your truth, you get to reinforce what you know and what you know to be true for you. And I've always found that helpful.
So I'm going to just interrupt just for one moment, because I have a lovely question here from Kathy at Pepper Marketing. Erica, my question is about my shopping habits. What is your number one tip to not listen to the voice that says buy those salted caramel pretzels when shopping in the heat of the moment on the shopping excursion? And then if you did not listen or say no and move one and get home with a dark bag in hand. I'm sorry, I'm laughing. How do you deal with the bag and not make yourself feel like crap? Even if I chuck it in the garbage, the feeling that I failed at shopping by buying it is still with me. That's actually a really good question. And it really ties into what we're talking about, which is, number one, starting the whole process of intuitive eating. So I'm going to go back to some of the stuff what we talked about in the beginning. And Kathy, just so you know, we were trying to have a side-by-side lovely conversation with Be Live TV, and it didn't quite work out. Not move one, but buy one. Oh, got it, buy one. I'm sorry. I knew what you were saying. I think that the first thing is if someone is on a diet, and I'm going to go back to why intuitive eating is such a wonderful process, is because when you learn to become an intuitive eater, all foods are equally moral. All foods are morally equivalent. So that buying a bag of caramel is no different than buying a bag of fruit. And I think that the issue with feeling bad about eating lots of caramels is that in the first place, you're giving the caramel too much power. The whole process of intuitive eating is about really letting go of diets, letting go of thinking that one food is good or bad and that you need to restrict. Because I think that the reason that people get tired of being on diets and the whole dieting culture is that it makes you feel crappy. It makes you feel crappy if you eat something that you imagine is not quote unquote healthy or good for you. And I'll just say that if you had caramels in your house at all times and you stocked them and you had them, no other, if you had just caramels, you could eat caramels from morning till night. And I guarantee that after a while, you would be so sick of the caramel that you would be saying, I think I need to have that apple. And that's really what happens in intuitive eating. So I know I didn't answer your question exactly the way that you might have thought so, but this is what's different about someone being on a diet and having a prescription, which says that you can only have one caramel a day, or maybe that they're not the healthy food for you, versus intuitive eating where all foods fit. There are no good foods. There are no bad foods. They just take up, caramels are just one part of your diet, and you can certainly have anytime you want without any morality. And I think when you come to that place, you find that you don't need them as much. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Ashley, do you have anything to add to what I just said?
No, I actually have a lot to say about this because
I knew you would.
I think that eating is about more than nutrients, right? Eating is about satisfaction, it's about pleasure, it's about enjoyment. That dieting wouldn't have you think that, but in truth, it is. And something that I struggled a lot with when I was, binging a lot and being really disordered with my foods was rituals attached to eating. And I was really down on myself about them. And one of the rituals was getting pretzel nuggets when I would go to the mall.
Getting what?
Pretzel nuggets.
Pretzel nuggets.
Pretzel nuggets, yeah. When I go to the mall. Pretzel nuggets and a slushie, a blue slushie.
Peppermint, pretzels and a slushie. Mm-hmm.
Yep, every time. And every time my mom would make me feel really guilty about getting it because it wasn't a quote-unquote healthy food.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a ritual. It's what we did. And I loved it. And then all of a sudden I was made to feel really guilty about it because my mom decided she was on a health kick and a diet.
Mm-hmm.
And so then there was this guilt attached to it. And so then I would go to the mall, and even though I didn't want it, I would get it anyway. And not only would I get it, but I would sneak back and get more. And if I was at the mall by myself, I would order, multiple things to the point that I ate it and did not feel well. So when I first started intuitive eating, I gave myself permission again to eat the pretzels at the mall without any guilt. Or just to have a snack at the mall. There was some kind of nostalgia attached to the pretzels at the mall or the snack at the mall. And, at first I ate a lot of pretzels. And then I was like, oh, well, there's a Godiva station next to this pretzel stand. I can get chocolate-covered strawberries. That sounds really, really good. I think I might get that today.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got the chocolate-covered strawberries instead. And then I think one time I got both because I was like, I want both. I really went through this whole process of, connecting with the nostalgia of the pretzels, giving myself permission to eat on my shopping trip, because I think there's also this whole idea of, like, you're shopping, so you're trying to be as thin as possible so that you can look the best as possible in these clothes that you're trying on. Like, there's that whole don't eat before you go bikini shopping bullshit. And so I think it sort of feeds into that too, and yet you go to the mall and there's food around you everywhere.
Yes. There's always food around.
And the courts are greasy, which is fine, greasy's fine, but I can recall when I got to a certain point in my intuitive eating journey where I was like, I don't want greasy Chinese food. I want like a salad because that sounds good right now, and that's just not here. But I think that in general, what you're talking about, Kathy, is, I'm sorry, I'm just scrolling down, to read the message again, I get the pretzel conundrum. I really do. I just spent my whole shopping trip being like, should I get the pretzels?
They're caramel. Okay, they're caramel pretzels. Okay, I apologize. I thought they were caramels. I missed the pretzels.
Yeah, and I've done the buy them, throw them out thing. I've done so many of those things, and at the end of the day, none of it did much of anything except make me feel guilty, make me feel like a failure. And the only thing that really worked was saying, well, what if I just got the pretzels? And I was okay with getting the pretzels. And the pretzels didn't mean anything about my ability to, stay on the wagon or be a good person or stick with the diet, and that's something that, like you were saying, that's different about intuitive eating is like, you're allowed to have the pretzels.
You can have the pretzels.
To have salad. You're allowed to have anything, and that's the whole point. You get to have your pretzels on your shopping excursion if that's what you want. And you don't have to want it because you're hungry. You can want it because that's what you do on your shopping excursions. You get pretzels. And, there might be a day where you're like, okay, so I'm going to get the pretzels, and I'm eating the pretzels. And I actually don't think I want them. I just got them because that's what I do. So maybe I don't need to finish the pretzels this time around. Or maybe you decide that they're really good and you're going to eat them all. It really is a case-by-case basis.
Mm-hmm.
And it really is about thinking about what you want and need at that time in a way that's separate from micro and macronutrients and calories.
That's correct. And I think that the thing about intuitive eating is that really it's a process. I mean, to many people who've never done this, it sounds like an impossibility. How could I allow myself to eat, salty caramel pretzels whenever I want? It's an almost impossibility to imagine it. But the fact is that when you allow yourself unconditional permission, it really loses the excitement. It just does. And it may not happen immediately. Usually when people sort of let go of diets and start working on intuitive eating, the diet tends to be a little bit heavier in the beginning. You may find you may have many more salted caramel pretzels than you want, and that's okay, because eventually, trust me, you won't want them. You'll decide when you want them. It won't be every moment.
Right, you might want them sometimes, but you won't want them all the time.
That's correct.
I think the other thing, because Kathy just had a follow-up, I'm not on a diet, just have a goal of eating healthier food and less sugar. That unfortunately is a form of a diet. It's a form of restriction. She commented again. The problem is the rate at which I ate the entire bag of pretzels. I do that, and then my self-worth takes a hit. And one of my kids ate half the bag with me. That added to my guilt. So you're saying that because you're enabling your child to eat quote unquote unhealthy foods. I mean, I think again, there's a lot of good and bad connected to the foods that you're talking about, and that's where the shame comes in. And I was a binge eater, and I would eat bags upon bags of things. And yes, exactly. Okay.
Yes.
I'd eat bags upon bags of things, and I wouldn't be enjoying it. I wouldn't be hungry. There was nothing about it. It was just that I felt like a shitty person because I was eating all this food that, quote unquote, was unhealthy. And instead of, saying, there's this good phrase. It's I can't recall the phrase exactly, but the essence of it is self-hatred doesn't motivate. Only self-compassion.
That's correct, self-compassion. I'm going to just stop for one moment and say that Merritt has asked a similar question. We're going to get to that with the compulsive exercise, but the whole point is, as I see, Merritt, you're asking about how to get over the internalized idea of having to earn/burn food with exercise. So you're describing the same feelings of guilt, actually, that Kathy you're talking about, and it's extraordinarily common, frankly, with any kind of restrictive eating. It's not, whether it be a full-blown eating disorder, whether it be binge eating, it's really coming from the same place of feeling shitty about yourself. Sorry for my language. But self-compassion is really the answer, is to recognize. Right. I'll let you finish. I interrupted you, Ashley.
Oh, no, you're fine. Just, like when we think about the exercise, for example, I can't see Merritt's comment anymore. The way the comments go again.
How did Merritt asked, how do you get over the internalized idea of having to earn/burn food with exercise and the habit of compulsive exercising? And again, it's just coming from the same place of shame that we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I think with something like that, I think acknowledging the thought, and I've talked about this a lot, acknowledging the thought, right? Like the thought's not going to go away. Certainly not in the beginning. You're gonna think things like, well, I just ate X, Y, Z, and so I have to compensate with this exercise. I would listen to that thought and then try and talk back to the self-compassion. You can say, I'm sure you've heard this from other therapists and stuff. This is a pretty common suggestion, but can you talk back to it and say things like, I understand that you're trying to help me. I understand that you think you're looking out for me, but this isn't what I need. This isn't going to help me in the long run. This isn't going to be sustainable, because I know that none of that works for me. I keep coming back to the same place. And I think that that's something that you have to remind yourself in all of these instances, whether we're talking about Kathy's situation or marriage or anybody else's, that none of these restrictive tendencies work in the long run. And we can see it with our own evidence, right? Our own anecdotal stories. We talk about it all the time. It's this constant back and forth between trying to restrict, whether it's, type of food, like Kathy, you were talking about sugar, or it's restriction through exercise. All of those efforts to restrict are only going to result in a rebound binge type behavior. So whether that's, the salted caramel pretzels or a larger meal that you then again you have to compensate for with exercise. So the only way to really stop that cycle isn't to keep trying to restrict, which is something I did for so long.
Many people do.
But whatever it entails, you know, you talk back to it and really try to challenge, why am I thinking that? Why do I think I need to compensate? Is it because I think I'm going to get fat if I don't exercise off my lunch, for example, whatever that even means? I mean, we're talking about calories in science. It's all estimates, and none of it's actually accurate.
You know, you're not a nutritionist, but you are totally correct. Calories in, calories out does not work. We've learned that.
It's not a real. It's not a real thing.
Has not, what? Yes, absolutely, it's not a real thing. It's not. It's not accurate science. Correct.
Yeah, it's not accurate science. But people cling to it, and I cling. I mean, I was an extreme calorie counter. That's what I did as well. I didn't exercise because I was very exercise averse, but I did count a lot. But you know, what was I saying? Oh, you know, so think about why you're having those restrictive thoughts. Like, is it, again, you know, should I exercise because I don't want to get fat? Well, if it's about getting fat, well, then that's about fat phobia. And I mean, I think for many of us, it is about fat phobia. You know, a lot of the thoughts that we have are about getting fat.
Absolutely.
Health question. Sorry?
Yes, we've talked about that.
You know,
yeah. I'm looking at Merit. I'm sure it's tied to internalized fat phobia. Working on it. Thank you. Yes. Can I just say we were just talking about that. Ashley and I, we talk about this every day. Really, fat phobia. How the world that wants to make us smaller. That like, who is the world to tell us what size we should be? We all come in different shapes and sizes, and that's the bottom line. I just want to make a point about the internalized voice, not just for you, Mary or Kathy, but really everyone in the group. You know, there's a number of ways to handle that internalized voice, the fat phobic voice, the voice that says you're not good enough. You know, we call it intuitive eating. It's really the food police, family members, whoever it may be. Another way to work on it is really through mindfulness, which is really focusing on recognizing the thought. You can have the thought, but it doesn't mean you have to act on the thought. You can let the thought gently pass through you and watch it go away on a leaf, on a stream. We actually have a wonderful, I have to say, my colleague Susan did a whole workshop with me, which is part of the Intuitive Eating Basics course, on using principles of acceptance and commitment therapy in helping to sort of bust through some of these stumbling blocks of these negative thoughts. And yes, you can challenge them, but you also can just let them pass through your mind. Just because you have the thought, having a thought that you're fat, having a thought that if I eat this, I'm a bad person, just recognize it. That's the mindfulness part. Recognize it. Let it sit there. It can sit right next to you, and then let it float away. And then just in that moment, you have that thought, but it's almost like an urge. You can have the thought, you can have the urge, and then it doesn't feel quite as intense. So recognizing that those thoughts are still part of you and just letting them gently float away.
Yeah, I mean, I really like the quote, we are not our thoughts.
Yes, I don't know who said that either. But I know Susan always says, get comfortable at being uncomfortable, because that is sort of how you challenge that food police, how you challenge those negative thoughts. You got to be uncomfortable. You know, how do you make any change if you're not comfortable? I have never thought about that till now, that I was making myself seem like I was on a diet. Yes.
Oh, right. That was.
Yes.
I was going to come back to that, Kathy. I was going to say that,
yes.
You know, healthy eating, quote unquote, is a form of restriction, you know, in and of itself. Yeah.
You know, Kathy, I think I want you to know that, you know, I always talk about this. I'm a dietitian for 30 years. It's ridiculous. And I really had those same, I know that we were around the same age. I had those same thoughts because that's how I was educated, that some foods are healthier than others. And I believed it. I really, as I've become an intuitive eater, I've let go of all of those thoughts. They've gone away down the stream. I eat whatever the hell I want, and without any guilt or shame. And the fact of the matter is that when there is no restriction, you really can enjoy the foods that, whatever food you want, in really, truly in moderation, whatever that means, without judgment or feeling crappy about yourself. So yes, people often have this diet mentality without even realizing it. just thinking that they only have to eat quote unquote healthy foods. So thank you for acknowledging that.
Sneaky diet mentality.
Sneaky diet, that's right.
Yeah.
Sneaky diet, it's everywhere.
Whole30 is a good example of a sneaky diet.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yes.
Clean
eating, sneaky eating. You're right. All of the above. These were great questions. Thank you. I'm looking to see if there's any other questions. Okay. May I just say thank you, Ashley, for being a wonderful source of inspiration, helping me reflect on what I was thinking when I lost my train of thought, and just in general being a wonderful supporter and person who really understands intuitive eating. And you sound like a therapist already, even though that you're not quite there yet. Thanks to you both. A little breakthrough for me today. Oh my goodness. Okay, Kathy, you made my day. Yay!
Yeah, and that's a good point too, Kathy. A little breakthrough. But I think that those little things add up. What do we usually call them? Crap.
Breakthroughs?
I can't think of it right now. Aha moments.
Oh, aha moments. Yes, that sounds. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are big, and they add up to sort of really large epiphanies about the way that you view the world and the way that you view food in your body, and it all sort of culminates into this really big paradigm shift, and it's huge and life changing and important.
Oh, both of us are great. Oh, Rebecca, you're so sweet. So you're. Yeah, next time, by the way, we're going to figure it out, how to be side by side. We're going to figure it out.
We tried.
We did. We tried. But back to review the videos. Okay, well, yeah, you can review it. We'll talk, Kathy. And then you can help me with my next part of promoting. Speaking of promoting, not that I want to sound like I'm spreading being too salesy, but Ashley and I are doing a wonderful program, which is really a group. We've been doing group intuitive eating coaching sort of together in the Intuitive Eating Basics course. And actually there is a program that's an online e-course called Intuitive Eating Basics. There's links all over my website and in this group. But we're continuing. If someone is on the journey and wants to have some small group experience, we're starting a small, I'm just going to say small, up to 8 people of intuitive eating support. Will be on Tuesday nights at 7:30. So if you have an interest, shoot me an email, shoot Ashley an email, private message me. There is an email page on my website. Right at the top, there's a button here. You can just connect with me and let me know if you have an interest, and you'll be hearing much more about it in the next few days.
Yeah, so the way we're going to do it, if you are interested, you can email me at admin, that's ADMIN, at ericaleonnutrition.com?
No, ericaleon.com. Admin at ericaleon.com.
Yep, and that's on the website as well. And the way that it's going to be formatted is, we're going to have the first Tuesday of the month to be the free call, that's a support call for the Intuitive Eating Basics course. So if you're enrolled in the Intuitive Eating Basics course, that's going to be the free call the first Tuesday of the month, except for this month where the free call is actually going to be tomorrow, and that's at 7:30. And then the other 3 Tuesdays of the week, the following 3 is going to be the support calls, and that's going to be intuitive eating coaching. Those are extra calls, and that's for extra support. And like Erica said, no more than 8 people, so definitely email us soon so that we can get you in and start rounding that up, because it's going to start in October.
That's right. Merritt, thank you, lovely. Challenge those food police voices, please. Challenge them. Okay.
Yep.
Small intuitive eating group program. And I'm going to actually I'm going to post this a little bit later when we hang up, so everyone can see this. Okay. So thank you, everybody.
Right.
Thank you. Next time we'll be side by side. All right, everyone. Have a great day. Okay.
All right,
bye, everyone. Bye.